Murdoch. I started that word and thought of Muck Duck from The Office. I have no clue why, and I could
It's
not
close.
say.
It's close.
Welcome to the Weekly Fix podcast, where we're just two friends talking about our passions within movies, TV shows, gaming, and comics. Thanks for checking out the podcast. We hope you like it. Hello and welcome to Weekly Fix. I'm Zane. Join with me, as always, is my great, amazing friend Jacob, and we are so thrilled to be talking with you this week about a bunch of stuff that got dropped. We got Doomsday cast, we got a double episode of Daredevil, and we got our season finale of Reacher all within a week, and we are here to talk about all of it. We did miss a week due to spring break, some scheduling, trying to get out some stuff on a weekend, and then we just kind of missed a week. So our apologies for that. But I'm glad you're back with us. We're glad we're back on track. Jacob, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Baseball season just started. The Yankees have swept their first series of the seaseason, so we're a nice 3-0 start. So that's always fun. But yeah, it's been nice having some great content to watch. Like you just talked about the Reacher finale, awesome 2-episode drop of Daredevil, and the story's finally starting to pick up, which I'm excited about to talk a little bit more. And then, like you said, we got the Doomsday cast with some cool little announcements in there. I don't think anything too crazy or really even anything that we didn't expect, but still great to see some of the cast that we're going to be getting.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about baseball season, but it's March, baby. And March means March Madness. Have you been watching the tournament?
Not too much. I'm not a big college fan. I just kind of like watch it here and there. So I watch it every once in a while if it's like on in a restaurant, if I go to it. We actually have it on like all the TVs at my work. It's always on. So like I'll watch it during the day if it's on during that time. But yeah, I usually don't keep up with college stuff too much.
Yeah. Or like if you come over to a friend's house and you're supposed to be like playing a board game and then we end up watching basketball instead.
Well, to be fair, I didn't get there till like you guys had already been watching it, and I didn't even watch much of it then. So
Well, I know you haven't been watching it, but I've been a happy participant in March Madness. I have enjoyed the games. They've been incredible. The skill level seems to just be leveling out quite a bit in the college game, and these kids are impressive. It just seems like they keep getting better, which is really saying something. It's pretty awesome to watch the game evolve. But anyway, let's hop into it. What do you say?
yeah, I'm down. Let's get into some of these awesome topics.
Okay, so we got the confirmed casting announcement from Marvel. Now, they did a slow roll 5-hour stream dropping or showing the back of the chair for whoever is in the store in the movie every about 13 minutes. And we have quite the list. First off, before we hop into any of the names or anything that we go, how do you feel about how they did this announcement?
I mean, I personally was not a big fan of it. I think it took way too long, especially when we didn't have any, like I said, castings that like blew me out of the water there. I was like, oh, no way. So I thought it was a little bit boring, to be honest. I think they could have done this in like, if they would have announced them every like 5 minutes, I think that would have been a lot better, saved people a lot of time. But as far as publicity goes, they did have people talking about it just about the whole day. So I think for as far as a marketing standpoint goes, it was a very smart idea. But they did get a lot of backlash and a lot of people hating on it. So I don't know if it's something they should continue to do in the future, but with as much clicks and as much, talk as they generated, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to do it again.
Yeah, I don't know how much you needed to generate over the course of a day for this, because it's a Marvel movie, so you're already going to have that. The only thing I think that this was beneficial for was the names that may not get talked about got talked about online. So like you think of, I don't know, somebody who like I'm trying to think of somebody who like really wouldn't have like had much time to talk about it, like Winston Duke with M'Baku. Maybe he wouldn't have even been mentioned online, like as excited that he's coming back. He would have been overshadowed by some of these other names. And by slow rolling it at the pace that they did, it allowed him to be in the Twitter feed. Everyone was like getting to talk in real time about each announcement. So each person got their community to discuss that casting, and that is what I think was good to not overshadow. But I agree, if you didn't watch it and you were active in those in those conversations in that moment, I think is a just a waste of time, honestly.
Yeah, like I said, I think it would have been great. Like I like the introducing each one individually, like you were talking about, giving each person their little spotlight to kind of be like enjoyed and get excited for them. I just think they should have really done it every 5 minutes or so. I think with the way they were doing it, it was really boring. Just the back of a chair for 13 minutes in a stream. Like it would have been better just a 5 minute one, or maybe even like we talked about a little bit in one of our group chats. You know, if they would have, each person's chair would have been designed a little bit differently, so they kind of resembled the character. I think they could have had a lot more fun with it than just doing, you know, these basic chairs. The only one that they did have a little bit of fun with was Ant-Man. And then by the end of it, they had put back a normal chair. So it was like the same size as all the rest of them. So that only even lasted for a few minutes, like the fun that we had there. So I do like the individual name rollout. I just wish it would have been done a little quicker and wish they would have been a little bit more creative with it.
Yeah, they definitely could have done quite a bit more. We did get to see the cast, which is good. Now, before we go through the names, I want one more question to ask you, kind of before we break this down. Do you think this is the full list?
I think this list is more so or who are going to be like the main players in the movie. Obviously, there's some big names that weren't mentioned that I don't think there's any way that they're not going to include them in the movie. I mean, we're going to talk about the list here in a second, but no mention of Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, no Tom Holland as Spider-Man. We you know, no Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, which I definitely think she'll make an appearance. Maybe not necessarily in this one. Some of those might be more Secret Wars heavy stuff when we get to that point, but I still do think those will be characters that do show up here in Doomsday, but I think they will take more of a backseat to these other characters. I think these ones that we got announced will definitely be like the main ones. Most of the screen time will be revolved around them. We've kind of talked a little bit about it. You know, we'll get into it again here in a second, but we did get some X-Men people. It definitely seems like they are trying to do maybe an Avengers versus X-Men type event that maybe Doom sets up himself, you know, maybe making these worlds collide. You know, they aren't really familiar with who each other are. So I think that will be a fun thing. And I think it makes more sense with the characters that we did get to match up than if we had like Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. I mean, there's going to be a clear advantage for some of those sides. So this makes sense for me as like a main player type thing, but I definitely don't think it's a complete list of everybody that we're going to get. I still think we'll have some of those characters that I mentioned, just in much more limited role.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think Doctor Strange is going to show up, and this kind of confirms. Benedict Cumberbatch had a interview, I think like 2 months ago, where he said, "Hey, I'm not in the movie since they did the rewrites," and everyone was like, "What? That's crazy." And now not seeing his name on this list kind of confirms that like that wasn't a misdirect or something. So I honestly don't know if he'll be in this.
I definitely think he will. I don't think
Oh
there's any
yeah.
chance he's not. Yeah, I
Okay,
think he's too
that's
big of a character. I think it's just one of his. All these actors always say, "Oh yeah, I haven't heard anything." I mean, Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire did it for 2 years leading up to No Way Home, and they were pretty significant players in that movie. I mean, they were in about half of the movie. So I mean, obviously these actors are always going to say, "Yeah, I'm not in it," just so they can have their moment when they show up on screen, and they might even be told, "Just hey, don't tell anyone you're in the movie." So I think we're seeing that right now with Sadie Sink. You know, we're hearing all these rumors about she's going to be in Marvel. We don't really know what role she's playing. And people ask her about it, and she's like, "Oh, I haven't heard that, but it would be cool." I think some of these things were just like, we know you're in it. Obviously, you're just not allowed to talk about it. And I think that's definitely the case with him.
okay. I don't think that's the case with Benedict, but we'll see. The first disagreement of the night, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. But let me kind of just like run through like the first five of this list, because I think they're pretty basic. We got Chris Hemsworth confirmed, Vanessa Kirby as Invisible Woman, Anthony Mackie as Captain America, Sebastian Stan for the Winter Soldier, Paul Rudd Ant-Man, and that's the first five. Obviously, there's no surprises here, right?
No, I do like though that they did give Chris Hemsworth like the first seat because he is kind of like the most OG Avenger that we have left. So I really appreciated that. I thought that was a cool little nod for him. It was interesting to me. One of the things I also would have liked for him to do a little better is there was really no rhyme or reason to like the way they announced each actor. I would think it would have been a little bit cooler if they were like for the Fantastic Four announced all of them at one time, and maybe that was just to build anticipation and be like, oh, maybe they're not all in it. But I think that would have been cool, like to give each one of them. So I would have almost preferred, like, let's just do all the Avengers that we know and we have around. Like, I would like to see like Thor, like obviously Captain Marvel, which is one that wasn't in here, also not another confirmed actor. But if they would have done a little bit more rhyme or reason to that, I think that would have been cool. But yeah, these first five were almost more expected than anybody else we get.
Yeah, Captain Marvel not being confirmed with this is wild, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I think it's one of those things that I think she'll be in it. I just don't think it'll be a big role, and she'll have more of a bigger role when Secret Wars comes around. Same with all the other ones I've mentioned before. But I think it could be one of those just like maybe towards the end of the movie they show up or something like that. But
Now, the next five is kind of where it kind of got exciting. For me, we got Letitia Wright as Shuri. We got Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent, which is like a big spoiler for
yeah.
Thunderbolts, which a lot of people are saying, like, a lot of the Thunderbolts are confirmed here. So if you don't want to know anything about the Thunderbolts, go ahead and click in the timestamp to go to Daredevil. I'm sorry if I just spoiled that Agent, John Walker doesn't die, but sorry. All right, and then we got Tanak Mijaya as Namor the Submariner, and then Eben Moss for Ben Grimm the Thing, and then Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. Now, this five is much more exciting for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think these are cool that we're going to be getting them. These aren't like necessarily some of my favorite Marvel characters, and I think the more interesting thing to talk about here is the Thunderbolt spoiler. Like, I feel like this was a really interesting thing for Marvel to do, especially with that being right around the corner to announce all these characters that are in the Thunderbolts that are going to be in this movie as well. So, we'll go ahead and say the only one that we don't get confirmed is Taskmaster, which I think a lot of us kind of had wrote off anyway. But I think it's pretty interesting that they were like, oh, yep, that's the only one that's going to die because, again, that's the only one that's not confirmed. So I personally think that was a really dumb move by Marvel. But I also understand it when you're trying to announce this. I think this was one of those things also, it would have been cool if maybe we got like weekly announcements for who was going to be in the movie, just lead us up to that and then eventually get to the Thunderbolts. But I thought it was very interesting starting, giving us some of these spoilers already.
So you were upset with the 13-minute run out, but now you're saying give us weeks between?
Well, I think if it would have done it like I said earlier, do the rhyme or reason thing. We do the Fantastic Four or something like that, or like give us like waves of it. I wouldn't have mind that. I don't necessarily think my biggest issue was sitting around for as long as we did. I think how long was it? 5 hours
Yeah,
that we
it's
had to
five plus
sit and
hours.
wait for everything. I think if they would have done like, hey, every week we're going to be announcing five cast members, and then it was something we could look forward to on like every Monday. Like, oh, I wonder who's going to get announced. Make it more of like a fun event rather than just like a treacherous thing that we had to endure for the entire day.
Okay. All right. Now, I would thought that Namor the Submariner Namor getting confirmed was actually like a huge surprise for me that he's going to be in this film. You did not seem like that was surprising at all. Why wasn't that surprising to you?
I mean, I just, it's an Avengers level movie, so I kind of feel like everyone that we still see around and that's had an impact in some form or fashion, I kind of expect to see in these things. I think the big names I was going to be kind of expecting to see that we talked a little bit about that we don't get are someone's like, are these people that we've known going to come back? There's been rumors about Chris Evans maybe making a return in some form or fashion. Those were the names I was going to be more surprised about. But when you have like these Avenger levels movies, I don't think there's really anybody you can write off that we've seen in the past. That's why I wasn't necessarily surprised he was involved, especially after the Black Panther is involved as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see, at the end of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, we get to see Namor like defeated. He goes back to his people, but there's no alliance. There's no like he didn't admit he was wrong. He was just beat. And so to me, he was kind of like one of those villains that you kind of just like leave in the background until you need another villain. I was not expecting him to be announced in a Doomsday movie just because he is still a villain in the MCU currently from what we see. They haven't done any setup at all for him. I mean, the Thunderbolts are going to have to do some work to kind of get the Avengers or the universe to kind of know how all of these characters are going to be like playing together. But yeah, he was a huge surprise for me. And then I was really, really encouraged to see Simu Liu for Shang-Chi. It is a great injustice for Marvel that he has not been in a movie since what was it, 2021?
Yeah, I believe so.
So like that's crazy. The fact that we haven't seen Shang-Chi, one of the best received standalone Marvel films since Endgame, and just nothing. Not even a hint at him. So I'm glad that he's back, and I hope he has a massive role in this.
I definitely think the Fantastic Four is going to do a lot more for setting up this movie than Thunderbolts is going to do. I am interested though with what we're going to be getting with Thunderbolts a little bit more now because I think we've been for a while now theorizing that we're going to see a lot more of the cameo stuff in Fantastic Four. I think we're going to see a lot more like um, names and stuff that we might not have seen in that, kind of make things make a little bit more sense. But I'm interested to see if Thunderbolts does do any of that heavy lifting as well, and it's not just all done with Fantastic Four. But like as of right now, I could see some of these names, making some. Obviously, we have some Thunderbolts announcements here, but I'm interested more so to see what the story around Thunderbolts is going to be now, knowing that it does have to set up some stuff with Avengers. Because I think other than Fantastic Four, do we have any other Marvel movies announced before this is supposed to come out?
Not that I'm aware of. I know we have several series, but
Yeah.
nothing movie related that I'm can confirm right now. Now,
Yeah, so I'm
go
definitely
ahead.
interested to see like is Fantastic Four going to have to do all of the heavy lifting, or are they going to give some of that to Thunderbolts? So I think that makes it a little bit more exciting for Thunderbolts now, even though we have like the spoilers about who dies and who doesn't. Just to see what is the story going to be there, and is it gonna ultimately connect to this Avengers movie, or is this going to be more of like a trying to make these characters that aren't necessarily good, these vigilantes actually turn into heroes. Is that going to be the setup for this? Or is it going to be like, oh no, this is going to be a big, throwing of everything together to make sure that the Avengers movie flows well? So that's the excitement part for me, I think, with Thunderbolts now is like, how is this going to tie into Avengers Doomsday? Or are they going to have all of that be done through Fantastic Four?
Yeah, I honestly, dude, Fantastic Four takes place in another universe. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we're not in that other universe for the entire movie, I don't know. I don't know how much set up for our universe we can because we don't have any protectors, we don't have any Avengers, we don't have any teams currently functioning on the 616 universe. So I understand like that the Fantastic Four will do a ton of heavy lifting for setting up Doom and for kind of the threat, I believe. But on it, I don't see them doing anything for our mainline 616 to get us up to the level of unity that we need. We've talked about it time and time again that we're not pushing a main storyline, we're not connected at all, but they're trying to be. I don't know. I don't know. I just seems like after seeing this list, we're not ready for this movie. Marvel did not plan well for this.
Well, I think this is so much has to do with the Kang stuff that happened and them kind of having to rewrite, I think, everything that they had planned. I mean, we were kind of getting prepared for Kang Dynasty. Loki had done so much heavy lifting for that. Ant-Man and the Wasp had done some heavy lifting for that as well. And it kind of all got flipped on its head. So now I'm interested to see, like you were just talking about, like how are they going to connect everything? Because we have had a lot of movies come out recently that just didn't have any, substance to them. Deadpool and Wolverine really has nothing to do with the 616. We haven't had a Marvel movie that has a big thing to do with it. We just had Captain America Brave New World, and it was really kind of just a standalone movie. It didn't connect much stuff to our universe. So I fear that that's going to be what Thunderbolts is as well. But now, like I was saying, I'm interested to see if maybe they did change some things and it ultimately ends up being one of those movies that starts to tie everything together.
Which I mean, I don't know though, because that's not what I really wanted from the Thunderbolts movie. I was really excited for them to kind of get just established as a team. So
Mhm.
I and that's kind of what it looks like to me. Now,
Oh, I agree.
so oh man, just a bunch going on here. Speaking of Thunderbolts, the next five here we got Florence Pugh as Yelena. We got Kelsey Grammer. Now this is the first non 616 character announced, other than a Fantastic Four member, playing Beast, returning as Beast, which is a now his role wasn't announced, but we all know him from the early 2000s. He plays Beast, and then he played Beast in the post credit scene of the Marvels. So very interesting to see where everyone else is getting pulled from here. And then we get Lewis Pullman, who will be playing Sentry. in the Thunderbolts, Danny Ramirez, who played the new Falcon, and then Joseph Quinn, who plays Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. That's like the next five. Now, the big one here, obviously, is Hank McCoy. You said that we might be setting up a little Avengers versus X-Men. So when you saw this name, did you immediately go there?
Yeah, I think it was kind of they started to make it a little obvious with these X-Men tie-ins because I don't know how else it's going to make sense for them just to kind of show up and then we just like, we agree with everything that they bring to the table. And that's where I kind of see Fantastic Four doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I think we're going to see a lot of the, interdimensional travel with Fantastic Four, them going to different universes and stuff. And ultimately I could see something like an incursion happening from them doing this and them not fully understanding the threat that does come with traveling to different universes and stuff because this would be their first time doing it. And I could see that being how we get the X-Men pulled into our universe. That's how the Fantastic Four get pulled into our universe. That's kind of what I'm expecting for the Fantastic Four, is that we do start in a different universe like you were saying, but by the end of it we're going to have a lot of new players in the 616. And that's kind of where we're going to see Doom come up with the idea of pitting all these people against each other. So I think this is kind of like the only thing that makes sense at this point, because like you were talking about, we just don't have time to set up all these new people and things without it being done through, really, in my mind, Fantastic Four is the only movie that can do it. I just don't think Thunderbolts, being capable of it with the characters that we have and the story it seems like they're wanting to tell. So that's kind of where I came up with that, theory in my mind.
Okay. So one of the names that we didn't see that really surprised me, especially after seeing Hank McCoy, is because the setup for Kelsey Grammer to come back as Beast was done in the Marvels, like I mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
But Tayana, I think is her name, Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, went to that universe and met Beast.
Hmm.
And her name wasn't announced, which I find super surprising. So the setup for the X-Men that they've already done, they may not be capitalizing on. Or she may have just not been listed here to kind of hold their cards. Is always
Yeah.
an option. But that was really shocking to me that her name wasn't in there. Did you expect her or no?
I guess I really hadn't even thought much about her, but it became evident after we didn't get Captain Marvel, and I don't think we got Miss Marvel either. I don't think
Nope,
Kamala
we did
Khan's
not.
character. Yeah. So I
Iman
think that's
Vellani was absent.
yeah, so I think again, I think these are major players for Secret Wars, just not for this. I won't be surprised if they make an appearance. I just don't think it'll be a big thing. I mean, we also saw that with Endgame. Captain Marvel really wasn't a big player in Endgame, and then she kind of shows up at the end there. I could see something very similar happening with Doomsday. We go throughout the whole movie kind of having some correspondence between them, not really a main player, but then by the end of it they show up to, do battle or whatever they have to do to try to help keep the universe afloat. So I kind of expect that with a lot of these names that we've mentioned so far that aren't in it. I just don't see how you don't include them. And if you don't include some of these characters, it better be a really good reason as to why you don't. And we do have some reasons. We talked about Doctor Strange potentially not being there because we do see at the end of his movie that he does go with what's her name? I'm drawing a
Cleo.
blank. Yeah, to go do something there. So there are some excuses they could use. Um, but I just ultimately see that kind of being what I expect with Monica Rambeau's character, Captain Marvel. I think they're just not main players in this movie.
Okay. And I mean, I completely agree. Now, we do understand that I'm guessing this is a 3 hour movie, that there is going to be a very difficult task to balance the amount of personalities, the amount of characters, and then still give a cohesive storyline with everyone seeing it. I know we can't include everyone, but
Mhm.
I was just surprised that some of the ones we did get included over others. Like I did not expect this Fantastic Four. I mean, this X-Men that we got. And so the next five is David Harbour, playing Red Guardian from Thunderbolts, Winston Duke, M'Baku, we kind of talked about him earlier. Hannah John, who plays Ghost, she'll be in the Thunderbolts as well. We got Loki, uh, played by Tom Hiddleston, and then Patrick Stewart reprising his role of Charles Xavier. What about this list you got? Because we kind of got two big ones, in my opinion, that I was not expecting at all.
My favorite one, definitely maybe from the whole list of confirmations, is Tom Hiddleston for sure. I think
Mm,
interested to see how he gets pulled out of where he is currently, kind of holding universes together. and comes back. I think that's the most interesting one for them to do here, but it's also my one I'm most worried about. I hope they, we've heard oftentimes that the Russo brothers kind of throw to the wind anything else that's been set before them. We've seen that definitely with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and how James Gunn said he wasn't happy with what they did with Star-Lord, the way they took his character and kind of changed some things there. So that's kind of my worry with them here, is maybe they're like, oh, we're just going to take Loki and kind of do whatever we want with him, and kind of just throw out what he has accomplished in his own show. So that's like one of my most exciting things, but one of the things I'm most like worried about is like, I hope they don't ruin some of the great stuff that we have gotten. And I also want to preface, I've talked about how we have some characters that weren't mentioned that I do think will be in it. I also think there are some characters on this list that won't be big time members of the movie either. Like M'Baku, I really think he will make an appearance. I think he'll be in the movie. I just don't think he'll be very important aspect of it. I think he'll be similar to maybe, a side character for Shuri. Maybe he, brings an army to fight if there's a big scale battle or something like that. I just don't see him being a huge player of the movie. And he could end up being it, but I really just don't see that happening. So I also want to say that I think some of these people that we might be getting might be in it very limited, but were just names that they were able to go ahead and confirm.
Now, M'Baku for me, to me, he should be Black Panther at this point.
Yeah.
Now, because Shuri gave up the throne, and in order to have the throne, you have to take the heart-shaped herb, which M'Baku challenged for, and no one was there to stand against him. So at this point, Winston Duke playing M'Baku should be our Black Panther. That's my theory. Now, like you just said, I don't know if the Russo brothers watched that movie and understand that.
Yeah.
There is that potential that is just like thrown to the wayside. We have no clue what it is, and she just comes back full-fledged Shuri. We don't know what she's been up to, and it's been a hot minute since we've seen her. I think 3 years at this point at least. So we'll see in movie time, and I think the MCU is advancing at a faster rate. But so that's I kind of think M'Baku should be our Black Panther at this point, or another character that he embodies whenever he wants to take the mantle of. But he should be the protector of Wakanda. And then, like you said, Loki is my most excited, hands down. And you mentioned the incursions earlier, and it makes total sense to me that Loki needs to be involved in this. If he is the new god of stories, the protector of timelines, the one who lets all flow, if there is a Doomsday level event where he is crashing timelines and making incursions happen, it makes sense that, hey, Loki is involved. So I really am excited for him to reprise this role. I love Tom Hiddleston as Loki. He does a phenomenal job. I love the character development that happened during his own TV show, and I'm really excited to see how that plays in with Thor and how that goes about. So, man, what an amazing announcement. Very excited for him. And then the one you didn't touch on is Patrick Stewart. I will go ahead and give the other name as well. I'll go ahead and give the next four so that we can talk about them all together. But Ian McKellen was as Magneto, Alan Cumming, who played Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn, I don't know. Rebecca, who played Mystique, the original one, and then James Marsden, who plays Cyclops Scott Summers. How do you feel about this being the X-Men that we got?
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed, and I know a lot of people are like, nostalgia plays such a big thing for a lot of people. I'm not one of those people. I really couldn't care less about like the nostalgia of things like that. I was really hoping for a new X-Men. I was really hoping that we would get a new X-Men that would eventually lead off into their own movies and all that stuff. And this just spells the opposite for me. Obviously, we're not going to be getting, I don't think, new X-Men movies with these characters in them. And I could be wrong. I just don't think that's ultimately what's going to end up happening down the road for Marvel. So I think it would have been a lot better for them to go ahead and start establishing new X-Men members. And then also on top of that would be nice to know they don't have to worry about those X-Men movies and making sure that things make sense with what happened in those movies. And again, they might not care about that. It's the Russo brothers. They might just be like, yeah, that happened, but we didn't care, so we changed all this stuff. So ultimately, I wish we were getting new X-Men. I know a lot of people are super excited about it, and I'm happy for those people, but this was a big letdown to me. We haven't really talked about it a lot with the other X-Men castings that we've gotten, but yeah, this one I was really hoping for some new X-Men.
Yeah, and I was hoping to at least get the new faces of those X-Men. Like I would have rather had Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy playing those roles. I just feel like they played them better for a the new age Marvel that we have. I feel like, especially with the age of Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, like it's just I don't know. And Michael Fassbender did such a good job as Magneto, and I think James did a wonderful job picking up the gauntlet for Xavier, and then Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. I kind of like that casting better for me than the original. And another thing is just the age of it. Like I want I want it to look good. I want it to the action to look good. I feel like I don't know how Magneto will look um, as
Yeah.
Ian McKellen. Like I like that just worries me. Uh, he doesn't look good,
I mean,
and like he
we
doesn't
just
look
had that with
healthy.
Samuel L.
No,
Jackson too. You know, we
yeah,
had that with Secret Wars, right? Or not Secret Wars, Secret Invasion. The age of them really does make a big difference. So I
it
completely agree with what
does.
you're saying there.
I mean, he is 86 years old.
And he's Magneto.
He's 86 years
Yeah,
old. Like that's a
yeah,
wild.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I that to me was just a real old eh, whatever. I don't know if I'm loving this. I don't I'm in the same exact boat as you. I want it all new. I want it all new. And if I didn't get all new, I wanted the ones I mentioned just a second
Yeah.
ago. So now I'm double disappointed. Like this is like my third string coming in. But then they have the really weird call of we get Channing Tatum announced as Gambit. Um, so we have all the old X-Men. There is a Gambit from that universe. We don't get him, and then we get Channing Tatum from Deadpool 3. How do you feel about this?
So as far as this one is concerned, I am happy he's actually getting a chance to play Gambit. Like I'm excited for what he's going to bring to the table and stuff like that. And this is more fun for me really because we haven't had him as Gambit other than in Deadpool and Wolverine. Like this one makes more sense. He's a character I could also see sticking around with Marvel for a little longer than the other ones that we mentioned because he's not as old, right? Ian McClellan, like we don't know how long he's just going to be around to even want to do movies, right? He is 86. This might be his last thing he ever wants to do. So I don't really mind the Gambit one as much because he is younger. You know, there is a story that can be told if they want to in the future, you know, tell a Gambit story, you know, include him in some X-Men movies and stuff like that. So that one didn't bother me as much. But it is funny, like you were just mentioning, we get all these old X-Men, but we didn't get the X-Men Gambit from that time. Like it really just feels like they were like, you know what, we'll just bring Channing Tatum back because he had that funny line that everybody talked about.
And dude, I am super happy that Channing Tatum is back. He is one of my favorite actors. I have loved him since the Step Up days, and like I'm all about Channing Tatum. Or I think she's the man. Let's go even farther than Step Up. Like she's the man with Amanda Bynes. Like
Yeah.
I'm all about Channing Tatum being in this movie, but I do find it's just incredibly odd that it's not the other. And so a big I'm happy that it's Channing Tatum, but I'm also just very confused. So,
Yeah, this
um,
I guess if you were going as like which ones kind of surprised me, I guess this one might have honestly surprised me the most after we started seeing the other X-Men get announced. I was like, oh, I guess I know where they're going with this. And then that one kind of just came out of the blue. So while not a ton of these names surprised me, that one was a little bit like, I don't know what they're doing here.
yeah, because I was expecting, I guess it's Taylor Kish, who played it in X Men Wolverine. So I don't know. I was definitely along the boats of you, as very surprised that Channing Tatum showed up, but I'm also pleasantly surprised. And then the last two, the big hitters that we knew were coming, Pedro Pascal and Robert Downey Jr. Not much to say here. Obviously, big old boys coming in with expecting a big old fat paycheck. This is an expensive movie. Just looking at this casting. Um, so your favorite is Loki. What's your least favorite to see on this list?
Man, honestly, I don't necessarily like think I could just pick one as my least favorite, but it really just goes back to the X-Men thing. Like, I'm so disappointed that we're not getting new X-Men here. I think, and I don't think Ian McKellen's bad. Like, I think he was great for what he did in the time that he played in. But with his age, in the character he's supposed to be playing, I think that one might be the one I'm most upset about because, like you said, I want it to look good. I want if he's in an action scene for it not to look like he's literally walking in slow motion. I don't want any of those things to happen. So if I had to pick one, and it's sad to say, that's probably the one I'm least happy about. But you can kind of just lump all of the returning X-Men into that. And it's not because I don't think they're awesome and like had a great time with them in their previous movies, but I just think it's time to move on from them specifically, especially with where the MCU is. They weren't tied to the MCU. I don't feel like there should be any reason to include them just for the sake of they were previously the Marvel X-Men. They weren't the MCU X-Men. So overall the X-Men, but if I had to pick just one, probably Ian McKellen just for those reasons of I just want it to look good, and I feel like that's going to be like a real eyesore when we actually do get to the movie.
Okay. Yeah. I almost agree. I'm probably going to pick Rebecca as Mystique just because I really would have. I think Jennifer Lawrence did a significantly better, uh, like a much better role for Mystique. I
Mm-hmm.
think she played that much better. And so that's probably my least favorite. My favorite is actually tied between Loki, Tom Hiddleston, and then we got Tanakh coming back as Namor. I did not expect that. Namor was one of my favorite villains. He made my top 5 Marvel villains, and I am thrilled to see him come back. The actor who played him was phenomenal. He did a great job, and then to see how the world has evolved since the last time we've seen this universe, it really excites me that this is what we're getting. So very excited, very happy with this. Hopefully we will hopefully this will be amazing. I don't know. I'm a little
I,
nervous now that I see these X-Men. I'm gonna be honest.
yeah, it's one of those things too. And you're just talking about how expensive this movie is. We know that this isn't everybody. There's some other really big names that are going to be in this movie, and that even if they do play a limited role, they're still going to fetch a quite a nice price tag along with it. So I'm very interested to see I think I'm more so interested at this point to see how do we get to the point to where this movie makes sense. The very first Avengers movie, how many years of buildup was it to that? Other movies, and everything like that. And it just does not feel like we're ready for an Avengers movie. And sure, I'm pumped about it. Like I'm super excited for another Avengers movie. They're like some of my favorite Marvel movies are the Avengers movies. I think they're fantastic. But those movies are so good because of the build up and the world that we had and the storytelling, and we just feel so far away from that for this to make sense. So hopefully the Fantastic Four does it. Maybe Thunderbolts does do more heavy lifting than we're expecting. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of reason to be concerned. But at the end of the day, I think we'll be happy with what we get because it is still Marvel. We still love it, and it is always fun just to see all these people that we love and these characters that we love on screen.
It will be nice because I know we're not ready storyline, but boy, are the fans ready to get Marvel back on pace? And
Yeah.
I think this will do this. Very excited to see Thunderbolts. It'll be next month almost, I think. By the time this drops, so awesome. But Marvel is still kicking, right? We have a show out right now. I don't know, little thing. Don't know if you've heard about it, but Daredevil Born Again. We are 6 episodes into a 9-episode season, which seems impossible. Honestly, Jacob, how are you feeling about Daredevil Born Again?
Yeah, this is something we haven't had a chance to talk about a whole lot on the podcast because we've had so much other stuff going on. We've been talking about so many other things. And it's nice that we're finally going to have an opportunity to just talk about Daredevil here for a second. And, I've been a little bit on the fence about if this is a good show or not. The first few episodes felt really slow. It didn't feel like a Daredevil show. Some of the things that we really want is like those good action scenes, great hand to hand combat. And we just weren't getting it. And I was starting to get a little let down. I was starting to get a little bored with it. And the last couple of episodes definitely helped. We started to get some more story really starting to develop We did get some of those action scenes, which were super fun to see. And then we finally got to see Daredevil take back up the mantle of being a vigilante, put the mask back on. And we also got to see some great Kingpin moments, kind of seeing them both fall to their old ways was really fun and kind of exhilarating to finally get to that point because we knew it was coming. We were kind of just waiting for it to happen. So we're finally at a point where, it's starting to really pick up. The action's getting there. The story has developed nicely. So I'm enjoying it so far. But it did start off a little shaky. So I do want to preface it with that. But I think if they can continue where they're at now, I think the 2-episode drop, which normally I'm not a big fan of, made a big difference for this show. Having not having to wait another week to get to what we did get to definitely was helpful for me and not getting completely bored with the show. So that was nice. So I think it's off to a pretty solid start, but I still do think it has the opportunity to be a phenomenal show.
Yeah. Without the foundation that had been laid by Netflix, I don't think anyone would be super happy about this show.
No.
Kingpin would not be a good villain in this moment. For me, like he's not super good without knowing the Kingpin's backstory.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love Matt oh my goodness. Murdoch. I started that word and thought of Muck Duck from The Office. I have no clue why, and I could
It's
not
close.
say.
It's similar.
He hasn't. For those of you who don't know, Dwight, he says R is a much more dangerous letter than K, and he said that's why it's Muck Duck. That's why it's murder instead of Muck Duck. So that's a fun little sound bit there. So yeah, no, I'm not thrilled with it. I'm gonna be honest. I am happy with where we are at this moment, but like you said, like I've been kind of the same boat. Like we've had friends who are falling asleep, who are watching it, who can't stay up. That's wild. The first 2 episodes, the first one I thought was acceptable for where we're going. The second one started going a little bit more. The third one, I was like, okay, I get it. Like we're getting a little bit of lawyer in here, and the episodes 2 and 3 had some courtroom scenes, and they are fine for someone who doesn't want to watch a courtroom drama. But if you like tuned in to see some good courtroom stuff, like I just don't think it's good enough. So I think they could have put a little bit more time in that. And then episode 4, we get to see the only thing good in episode 4, in my opinion, was Frank Castle. Which, I mean, Frank Castle is incredible. And I love John Bernthal's reprisal of him. Getting to see that interaction and them talking was the highlight of the show so far, in my opinion. But we're really still dragging our feet so low. It's crazy. And then we get to see episode 5, which is essentially a completely standalone film or episode with Iman Vellani's father, who Iman Vellani plays Mrs. Marvel. This is Miss Marvel's father. Kind of cool to see him just like pulled into the universe. And I thought episode 5 was fantastic. Did you like that kind of stepping out of the story and kind of seeing that moment?
So I will say episode 4, I really enjoyed the vibe of that episode because I am getting it correct. That is the episode with her dad in it, correct?
No, that's episode 5. Episode 4 was Punisher.
Punisher. Oh yeah. Episode 5 was one of my favorite episodes of the series, just because I liked the vibe. Like the Irish theme that we had going on with St. Patty's Day was really fun. I think he is a great actor. Miss Marvel's dad. I think he does such a good job in that role. He's funny. He's likable. I obviously like that episode because there's a Funko Pop. There's a Funko Pop in the MCU. Like, how cool is that? But yeah, no, I thought that was one of my favorite episodes because the tone of that episode was really fun. The vibe of it was really good. And even though it was a little bit of like a kind of straying away from the path that we were on, it really didn't fit. It was a really good, fun episode in my mind. Like, it didn't push the story forward necessarily a whole lot, but it was kind of fun just to kind of watch it all unfold, this bank robbery taking place, knowing that Daredevil's kind of in control. I loved the scene where he cracks the safe just by listening to it. I thought that was really cool and really fun, a great way to show his powers, which I think is something that the show has done a very good job at, is really showcasing how he uses his skills and stuff like that. So yeah, episode 5 was a blast for me, and it's definitely been my favorite of the series so far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I love that episode too. Like, there's some people online saying like that this was not a good spot for it, and I honestly would have been completely happy for them to not do a double drop and just have watched that episode because it was like the Daredevil I like to see. Like, he doesn't have a suit, but yet he is still 100% committed to doing what needs to be done to help people. And so I think it does fit pretty well because like he takes matters into his own hands, and it's a really nice introduction into him going back to the Matt we knew, the one who has seen the justice system fail, the one who knows that the cops are corrupt and there something has to be done. So I wish that we would have got this Matt sooner. And then in episode 6 we really get to see it when the niece gets to come and ask for help, and he's just like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna do it myself, and puts the suit back on. We get to see him go off against I just lost his name. What's the is it
Muse.
Muse? We get to see him go off against Muse, which I was a little upset that Muse got away in this moment. I think he should have just went ahead and put a stamp on the season and taken him completely out. But yeah, I am I'm satisfied with where it's at now. I'm very discouraged that it took this long to get here, and we don't have as much as we need. Like, we really need more Kingpin. We need more Daredevil interactions. We need the story to progress. We are 6 hours into the show. We have 3 hours left. Like, we should not have been six. And we heard this. We heard the reports that Daredevil didn't don the suit for 5 episodes, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's crazy." Well, that's what we got.
Hmm.
Like, and they were like, they said they fixed that. They didn't fix that. Putting Foggy's execution at the start and opening of the show didn't fix what is done. So I'm kind of I'm kind of fascinated that this is what they did. Each episode it's been dropping, I'm like, okay, like, where's Daredevil? Like, this is Daredevil show. And I understand that this was supposed to be an 18 episode season 1, but man, you can't expect people to sit through 6 hours of a of a Daredevil show and not see Daredevil. So I'm a little annoyed that it's taken this long, especially with the rewrites and the fan interactions that showed the displeasure with exactly what we're getting. But it is a good show right now. I'm satisfied with where it's at. I loved episode 5. The Punisher stuff was good. I want to see more of him. Honestly, I want to see him more than anyone else in the show. And I thought the execution of White Tiger was pulled off really well. What did you think of that moment?
Yeah, I liked it. I think it also makes sense for, ultimately what we're going to get with White Tiger. We're going to see his niece eventually don the suit and all that stuff when she gets a little older. I could see that maybe playing into like a Young Avengers type thing as well. Maybe she'll get recruited by Miss Marvel or, Kate Bishop, something along those lines, which I think could be really fun. And I think it makes sense for this one. I think really this show could have done so much stuff to have made it a lot better. I think it would have been cool. We talk about episode 5 and how much we enjoyed, the bank heist scene and all that stuff. To me, obviously, you'd have to have changed some things around. But the premise for that episode, I would have really have liked to seen in episode 1. Get us back into the world, get us, back familiar with who he is, what his powers are. Those people that didn't get to watch the original thing, they start to get a little bit of an understanding of what he's capable of. And then you can do the Foggy, killing maybe in a, next episode. And then all those things, like just some of those decisions, I think could have made this show a lot better. And we would be a lot more happy with where we're currently at. But like you said, I don't think it's necessary. It's definitely not a bad show. I think it's just taken a really long time to get to where we're ultimately feels like we're going to get to. But I still think the payoff is going to be good. We finally kind of got to see him back in the suit, so we know there's going to be some stuff happening. I agree. I do wish he would have gone ahead and killed Muse in that episode, and I think it would have also been cool to see him, ultimately do what Frank said he was gonna do, and what he was kind of asking for his permission to do was to go out and be like a true vigilante and to end people that didn't deserve to be around. Because Muse is a terrible person. I think they said they had like 60 confirmed killings
Yeah,
You know,
60
that's not
plus.
somebody. Yeah, you know, that's not somebody that should just be like free to, you know, just be captured and all that stuff. So there are some things I think they could have done better, but ultimately I kind of feel like you do. Like, I'm still interested in the story. I'm excited for the next episode. I just wish we would have got here a little quicker.
Yeah, I told Chelsea the same thing and about executing Muse. It's funny though, like Matt is Catholic, right? So he has those Christian roots and he has a deep faith that no one is, too far gone. And that's kind of like the entire Christian religion. That's what we believe. Like, no matter what you've done, no matter what you do, like Jesus paid it all for you. And so if I wish that they played into his faith more, and I understand they're probably not going to, but he has this moral ground because he's Catholic, not because of some other thing. Like his morals don't come from nowhere. Like they come from the Bible, and like he's going to put that first. Now, I think in the Bible, capital punishment is pretty accepted, especially for someone who's committed 60 homicides. Like that would be the expected and correct thing to do. However, that should be done through the justice system, which is what Matt supposed to believe in. So I just kind of wish they played into that a little bit more because some of these decisions would make more sense, right? Like if he had a part of confession or prior to going after him or something, we would kind of see like, okay, like he's still entrenched in his faith. Um, and then you said the thing about having that bank scene at the start. Like, what would really be cool to kind of bring him back as opposed to like the white tiger just randomly running down in the sewers, or the tiger's niece kind of like randomly running down in the sewers, which is just like, ugh, I don't get that. That seems really really dumb. Would be for that scene to be at the beginning, him stick around, him doing everything he could just save the day, and then maybe after donning the suit for a while, another bank robbery happens, and he says, "Hey, the police will get it. Don't worry about it," and everyone died. Like, because he didn't do it. Because this
Mhm.
time he didn't stay. I think that would have been, like, a really cool motivation for him to see that he is needed, and then it's not just a selfish motivation, it is like, "Hey, like, I am in I am important to this city. I am important to the people." Like, it's important if you have these abilities that you need to use them. I think that would have been fascinating. A little bit better placement, because it does seem like in his mind at this moment, he wouldn't have stuck in the bank as hard as he did. He wouldn't have fought. Like he wouldn't have walked back to go fight those criminals. In this moment, I think it seems like he would have let the cops do it. So that's the only thing out of place for episode 5 that I think it would have been done is like I would have liked to seen him either prior to giving up the mask or more towards putting on the mask than he currently was at the end of episode 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I just think there's some things that, like, there is stuff here that like does make sense. You know, it's just another invincible thing where like we got to quit doing this whole no killing thing. It gets annoying after a while. But I do think there is a lot here that could have been done like really well, and like there's story points that I actually am really enjoying. I just think they waited too long to get to some of them, and it's one of those things that's really frustrating because they do get there and they're like, oh, you could have done so much to make this really good. Like there's so much opportunity there, and we'll probably look back at this when it's all said and done, and whether it wraps up really well or not, you know, we'll have these moments of like, wow, this could have been something super special, and it's just frustrating we didn't quite get that.
Yeah, no, I'm in a total agreement with that right there. So, um, but yeah, you got anything else to say about Daredevil?
No, am excited to see how these last 3 episodes shape up, but I think we've talked, you know, pretty well about, you know, overall how the season's gone and our things that we've liked and didn't like about it. But yeah, I'm still excited for it. I don't want anybody to think that we're not, and I think you are still also excited to see it. One real question I think I have for you is, do you think we do see Frank Castle again? Because I'm kind of starting to get to the point where I don't think he shows back up.
Oh no, I don't think we see him again.
Yeah,
I think that
which
was
is so,
his
it's
one
one of those
moment.
things. It's so frustrating.
Oh man, come on, Red. Um, yeah, no, I really kind of wish we'd have got to see him more.
Yeah, and I still think this could be a top 3 Marvel show by the time we get to the end of it, because there's not really a whole lot of competition for Marvel shows. But yeah, I'm excited just to see how it wraps up. And I do think we're finally getting somewhere, which is exciting. I am more excited for this next episode than I have been for the last few. So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, no, that is a good sign, and I do think they're gonna land this. Uh, I think we are gonna look back at this and be like, ah, it could have been top, but it did not capture any of the like magic
Hmm.
the first show did. Like this is clearly a step down significantly from the first Daredevil.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree.
Sad, but it happens. But we'll have to see how this one wraps up. Something we won't have to see how it wraps up because it's already wrapped up is Reacher. Jacob, were you able to finish Reacher?
I was.
Man, you stayed on top of this show so
I
well.
know,
I want to
man. I
just
did good this
commend
time.
you. I want to commend you publicly, like how good you did, Jacob. Great job. Uh,
I've been
um,
doing good with lots of stuff. I have not been behind on anything.
I
So,
know. I'm fascinated,
man,
and
look at
you're
me.
killing it. And I'm over here like really struggling. Um, with everything. Life got very busy very soon. So I was actually pretty thankful for the week off break we took. But why don't you go ahead and give us your Reacher wrap up? How was this season? We really haven't talked about it at all.
No, it was another Reacher season, which I think if you know what you're getting with Reacher, you're happy with what we did get on screen. Fun action, pretty solid story. I definitely enjoyed this season more than I did the last season. It felt more Reacher-esque, whereas I felt like the last season kind of got a little bit away from itself sometimes. And I think this season made a little bit more sense with some of the things that we did get. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. I really thought this was probably some of the best action that we've gotten from Reacher. I loved we'll talk about full on spoilers if you guys haven't finished it up. I do want to go ahead and start getting into some of the stuff, but I loved the fist fight at the end with Polly. I think that was such an awesome fight, and I think they executed that very well, not letting it be something that ended super quick. And we really got to kind of see that unfold. These two, juggernauts of men going at it. Really enjoyed that. You know how much I like those types of action scenes.
It did
But yeah,
not
it was a
end
very
quick.
no, it was a very long fight, which I appreciated. I didn't want this to be, oh, he gets shot in the head and that was the end of it. This was a fun way to do it. Um, so overall, I think I'm happy with this season of Reacher. I will say I'm not like I do really enjoy Reacher. I have a ton of fun with it. It's one of those things that like I enjoy the action. You guys know how much I love the action scenes and stuff like that. I am a little bit ready for, obviously this is just another season that we've gotten. I'm not really necessarily super pumped for another season when we will eventually get one. I think I've about had my fill of it, and obviously I'll watch it when we have another season of it. But it's the kind of the same old thing over and over again. He has a person he doesn't like, he goes and kills them, and that's kind of the end of it. So while it's fun, I think the path that we ultimately go on to get to that point is great. But I would like there to be a little bit more thinking that goes on behind the scenes with the storyline that would make it a little bit more involved. Have a few more question marks by the end of this season or stuff like that of how things are going to go. I think that would be a little bit more fun. But overall, I think it's just a great time while you're watching the show.
Yeah, Reacher is a guilty pleasure show that's not too guilty, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's not too dumb, it's not too corny, but it is corny. There are some dumb moments, but I think this season was executed well, very well, honestly. The fighting I think was better than it was in season two. I think that this show was clever. It was well thought out. There was some twists and turns I didn't expect. It wasn't completely unbelievable. There was definitely some scenes that were unbelievable. We talk about these two hulking guys and their ability to swim. I don't know how much you know about swimming, but when you don't have any body fat, like swimming's pretty difficult, especially when you weigh over 200 pounds. These boys are athletes.
Yes, they are.
And then like that just kept going when Polly ran up behind him after having a rake broke off in his leg, throat punched in the ocean, sank to the bottom, and then he starts running after him in the wood. Dude, I was hysterically laughing, and I was here for it. Like it was still so much fun. Reacher's a blast. I love it. It's a fun show. They do a great job with it. And this season had a heart behind it. It had, um, it had a lot of fun things in it. I do understand what you're saying though, like find some person, go kill them, blah blah blah. But it's also that's fun. Like in the midst of the kind of world of media that we are taking, especially us, with all the interconnections and everything that goes on, it is fun to just be able to sit down and watch a show that is just its show. And it
Mhm.
doesn't even matter if you saw the last episode, like it's still going to be like it's still going to be a fun watch.
Yeah.
So, Reacher's fun, man. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like, I will always watch the next season that comes out, like, I still enjoy it enough. It's just one of those things, like, when we do finally get to the finale, I'm like, I'm kinda, like, happy that it's over, and that sounds terrible, like I didn't enjoy it, but no, I think I'm just happy with what we did get. It's one of those things, they do a very good job, I feel like, of not letting it go on for longer than it should. I feel like, I think was it 8 episodes?
Yeah, it's
I
eight
think that's,
eight
like,
episodes.
perfect. Yeah, perfect for this type of show. It's fun. Obviously, I love the action scenes and stuff like that. We just talked about the fist fight. My most disappointing aspect of that was how it ended. I thought that was kind of a dumb ending. He's like, "Oh, I plugged the barrel," and I was like, "That's kind of dumb." And like the situation you were in, having time to do all that stuff, and they did show him kind of messing with it in that one little scene for like a couple of seconds, like he was trying to do something to the gun. So they at least got their bases covered there. But I was like, I would have rather had seen this just come down to like punch, punch, punch type stuff. But no, I think it's a great time. You talked about like, it is fun having a show that is self-contained. I do appreciate all those things. I just wish during the show we had more questions about like who is right, like who is wrong, who are the bad guys. I wish we maybe had like, some people that like turn their backs on Reacher, more some backstabbing stuff. I think would be a lot more fun to kind of see happen rather than just knowing he has this group of people that he never met Susan Duffy or the other cop and all that stuff, but he perfectly trusts them. I wish there was a little bit more there that would add a little bit more suspense to it, wondering if those people were going to turn on him, wondering if they're actually good people or not. Those are the type of things I would like to see them do, and obviously these are all based off of books, so whether those are in the books or not is whether it makes the final cut. But I do enjoy the show for what it is. It was a very fun season.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like some of that stuff's overdone with all the backstabbing and who can you trust. It is fun when you just have like some pretty wholesome characters that are just like we're gonna kill the bad guys, like we're gonna get them. That is a fun go get them movie. It was kind of even like making fun of him at the end. They're like, you're the kind of guy that you see a bad guy, you go kill him, and or like he was talking to the son. And he's like, what do you do if you can't live with the things in your past? And he's like, I find them and I kill them. And
Yeah.
it's just like, all right, got it. So it's a fun show. I'm excited for season 4. I don't know when it's coming out. I think it's next year. They're gonna just keep popping these things out until people stop watching it, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is good. Like I'm excited for more Reacher. I get what you're saying with like you're kind of glad it's over. Um, I'm not personally glad it's over. I like having Reacher to watch because I like Alan Rickman. And I really enjoyed this season significantly more than season 2. And I really enjoyed season 2. So it's been great. Good show. If you need just a shoot 'em up movie or a shoot 'em up show, there you can kind of there's some fun stuff. Um, there's a lot of violence, obviously, and Alan he has his shirt off a whole bunch. But it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things. I don't know anybody that could watch these and not at least find a little bit of enjoyment in them. It's just overall, like you said, a blast to watch. Lots of shooting and punching, and that's the type of stuff I love. I love those action type stuff. So it probably sounds funny. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of happy it's over. But I think hopefully the things that I've said kind of make sense for it. I think once we get to the end, I'm like, all right, I've had my fill of this in this setting in this world that we're in. I'm happy to be done with it and get to the next season whenever that comes. And these perform extremely well. So I think it is obviously smart for them to keep making them. Like I said, I'm ready. I'm happy that it's over in a way like that we got a story. I'm ready to be done with it and a little break from it, but I'll definitely be back for the next season. So I think that speaks volumes to the type of show that it is. That even when like, you've had your fill of it, when it does come back around, you are ready for it.
All right, so you said it's fun. You're gonna be tuning in next season. What do you rank Reacher season 3? And where does it fall among all 3 seasons for you?
This is my second favorite season for sure. I think the first season I think is still by far the best season, and I think that does play a lot into the fact that it was new. We didn't really know what to expect from the character and the type of show it was, but I really enjoyed the setting of that first season a lot. I do think that the acting and stuff has gotten significantly better from the first season. I have seen clips of him in the first season, and it's a little bit more robotic than it is now. So I do commend him for that. I think the acting has gotten significantly better. Same with the supporting cast. I think they've done a really good job of bringing in better actors and stuff like that. So this is definitely my second favorite season. First season being my favorite, and then the second season being my third favorite. And there's not really a reason as to why. I think they're all really pretty solid ones. I think it's ultimately, do you like the setting? Do you like the story? And then the action stuff is pretty on par with all the seasons. So that's why I ranked it that way. I wish I remembered off the top of my head what I rated the other two seasons, but because that would probably give me a better idea of where I want to rate this one. But off the top of my head, without knowing that information, I think this is a good 7. I don't necessarily, like I said, I was happy to be done with it and not have to have another episode to watch, which I don't want people to think that's a bad thing and that I didn't enjoy it, but I had just had my fill of it. So maybe I'm just in that time of my, Reacher watching period where I've had a lot of it. And I did also watch mine a little bit back to back, like the first season and second season. I almost watched literally, I think, within the same month. So I've had a lot more of it than a lot of people have. I haven't had as much of a break. So I think that could play a little bit into it. But I think a very solid 7 is where this one sits with me.
Okay, 7's super solid. Very good rating. I think this supporting cast has been great. I really like Duffy this season.
Mhm.
Um, the only character I think was awful was Duke. I think his acting was atrocious. I don't know. He was rough. Now I know some of that was playing into his stupidity and his naiveness. But also I was like, man, like, dude, this guy sucks. So there was a little bit of that for me. But man, I'm right on board with you. We got a the first season was the best. This is the second best, and then the second season lands in last for me. I think I gave the first season a 9. The second season was around an 8. Maybe I think it was more like 7.5, and this one's coming in at 8 for me as well. I really enjoyed this season. I had a blast. I liked it a little bit more than you did, um, just because I think whenever my wife enjoys something so much, it helps me to enjoy it a lot. And Chelsea really enjoyed Reacher. She loves it. She was disappointed when I could not hang after a basketball game and had to not watch the finale. So yeah, 8's where it's coming in for me.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. My wife also really loves this show, so it's fun to have a show that she gets excited about. Um, yeah, I think it's just a very fun show to watch. And like I said, when the next season comes back around, I think I'll be ready for it. But I'm just a little reachered out right now, and I don't know why that was. I was just like, we're finally finished. I can get a little break, and that could also be playing into the fact with just how much stuff we've had watching recently. We did just wrap up Invincible. We just wrapped up Reacher. We're in the middle of Daredevil. There's so much stuff going on. Maybe I was just a little televisioned out, and maybe it wasn't necessarily a Reacher fatigue. And maybe I'll look back on this in a couple of months and be like, you know what, I did enjoy that a little bit more than I realized.
Yeah, no, television fatigue was for sure. Um, and we're not getting stopped anywhere. It's getting
No.
um we're gonna get who are we gonna get? We're gonna The Last of Us this
Yep.
month, and then we have what is next? The Last of Us, and we have the Star Wars show that I'm blanking on,
Oh, Andor. Yep.
Andor, next season too, and we still got 3 episodes of Daredevil, so we're not
Yep.
done. And then we get into movie season. Um,
Which I'm stoked for. I'm ready for movie season.
yeah, I have to make I come in here a little bit and make my wife texted me from the other room and said, uh, "It's not Duke bad acting. The bad acting was Beck the father." Yes, I did mean Beck the father. He was the awful one. But anyway, just wanted to fix that. But yeah, I am glad that we're getting into movie season. I am very ready to get back to the theater and get some stuff. I think we're gonna get to go this So we have a ton of movies coming up. So we have the animated Easter movie that I want to go see. Then we have Stitch in May. We have the Thunderbolts in May. We have Mission Impossible. We have did I already say Thunderbolts?
Yes.
Yeah, and then it's Katie Bar the Door with Fantastic Four. Then we get
Superman.
Superman, and we just, dude, it's gonna be so much fun. So
Yes.
I'm excited to be in movie season. TV season has been fun, but it's just a lot of time, and a time something I'm not, I'm not inundated with right now. So I'm ready.
Yeah, it'll be a blast. I think it'll be also a nice little break to not only have the TV shows going on when we do get to that movie season and we have like kind of both in tandem. I think that'll be kind of fun. It will be nice to have a little break from the shows too. Just having some more time just to do nothing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, not do nothing, but do the things we have to take care of. So,
Yeah.
but awesome. I think that's a wrap. Unless you got something else.
No, I think I'm good with this episode.
All right, great. Well, thanks guys for hanging out and listening to us ramble. I'm sorry we missed a week without any warning, but we definitely needed our timelines to kind of fit in there. It was very nice. So we will be back next week with more Daredevil talk and whatever else comes out that we're looking forward to. So thanks for sticking with us here at Weekly Fix, and we will catch you in the next one.